Janice is a bit tired as she walks into the establishment because it's been a long day. Her ship has just offloaded several million tons of different cargo, but that would be the simple part. The hard part is dealing with an annoying dock manager that doesn't like humans at all. Constant harassment from the local crime syndicate or whatever it was, explaining to the authorities why crime syndicate personnel ended up full of holes and dead on the docks, cleaning up the mess after the bodies were taken away, getting chewed out by the dockmaster again for such a disturbance, even though it was clear that it was self-defense, dealing with customers that refuse to pay, or they refuse to accept cargo and then try to buy it again at a cheaper price. Some even demand a discount because she was early in delivery, or claims the goods had been damaged and everything should come out of her pocket. Stopping, of course, any accidental loss of cargo, as one that was accidentally lost was located before it was snuck onto another platform. Janice once again had to explain to authorities how someone accidentally ended up with a massive slug through the brain. Janice, after all this, just wanted a drink. She's been going for over 50 hours. She wants a drink, maybe two, and then leave and get some shut-eye. But as she sits at the bar, she can see the stares from all the patrons around her. The reflective screen in front of her allows her to see behind her. She sees a few of them moving their tendrils and their hands, showing how they're discussing her figure as they move in the standard hourglass shape. She could see some of them discussing her red, brown, and auburn hair. She had actually put on some blonde highlights just to put herself in a little bit of a good mood, as it helped her feel, well, human. Human female after so long. Reason being is that as a space trader, everything on the ship has to be practical. There are very, very, very few luxuries. And because of that, the boredom of space can cause a lot of mental issues, pushing many to their absolute limits and beyond. It's fairly normal to find a ship that's simply running on the autopilot, shutting down as it approaches a station as there's no contact with the actual pilot itself, and then as security teams come up, find that the pilot is either A, catatonic, B, still stuck in their stasis tube, or have ended themselves. To this end, every trader knows that if you have a chance to feel alive again, a chance to mate, you better go for it. You might not get another chance for a century, maybe more, so you need to take your chances. As Janice got her second drink, a small reptilian bison, which is small as in skinny, but still fairly tall, walked up to her. She was about to tell him to go screw off, but to her surprise, he didn't immediately ask her to mate or demand it. Instead, respectfully, he asked her if he could look, if he could stare, get a very good look, saying, "I have never seen humans before. May I examine you?" She was surprised at this, and in response, she simply says, "As long as you don't touch, you can look all you want. I don't care." As the Bison looked her over, asking all sorts of practical questions, everybody in the area stared. Janice appreciated being admired, being examined. And even when he asked her why there were certain curves, she didn't take offense, as it was very clinical in the way he asked. It was though he was looking for any type of flaw and not finding one. When the Bison pulled back and began to ask about the chemical smell in her hair, the Bison was pushed hard to the side by a very large, furry mammalian. This large, ripe, it looks kind of like a cross between a bear and the shape of a moose almost, tacking in a little bit of T-Rex, is standing there drooling and said,
"You will be mine tonight."
all while slowing, showing his interest as certain parts of him began to push the loincloth up higher and higher. At that point, another large creature, this time a bulbous amphibian, that looks like an anthropomorphized toad covered with warts on almost every part of his skin, slimes his way over and claims that she will be his instead. As they stare each other down, waiting for the other to blink, seeing neither is going to back down, they simply talk to Janice but don't turn their heads, but they tell her she must choose. All the while, other species stand as though they have the right to be chosen as well. Janice turns around and begins to grin. Taking another swig, she goes, how about this? All of you beat the shit out of each other, and I'll choose the winner out of who's still standing in 5 minutes. The silence in the air lasted the grand total of 1 heartbeat. At that point, a massive melee began, broken tables being shattered as bodies land on them, parts being used as bludgeons, chairs flying through the air, blood spraying as several different Zenos are being lashed with tendrils, lashed across with some sort of claw or mandible or whatever it might be. Parts begin to fly across the air, and everybody flies into an absolute rage, believing that they should be the one chosen for the night. As the fighting begins to slow after about 2 minutes, Janice simply stands there, pulls the zipper down on the front of her suit, pulls it off to the side, exposing half of her chest and saying, I guess no one truly wants this, do you? With that, the fighting immediately intensifies, and she relishes in all of it, enjoys the entire show, and before the 5 minutes up, the last two, the large ripe and the, of course, wart-covered amphibian, are beating the crap out of each other, eventually hitting each other so hard by some leftover furniture that both fall to the ground completely dazed and or possibly dead. Taking a final swig of her drink, Janice settles with the bartender, turns towards the group that are all moaning in pain on the ground, and she simply says, guess that settles it. She turns to the Bison that had come up and was examining her before and asks, can you stand? He hesitantly does, and she grabs his hand and starts pulling him towards the door, saying, then you win. As they leave, the amphibian can barely get to his knees, and he yells, you bitch! You can't play us for fools like this! You will be mine! At that point, he launches his tongue a grand total of 15 feet forward, wrapping the end around her neck, stopping her cold. Without warning, Janice grabs her pistol in the shoulder holster, does not actually draw it, but instead turns it towards her back and begins to fire several shots, not fully emptying the magazine, but enough. At that point, the tongue loosens and drops to the ground with a sickening, slurping sound. Janice looks at it, wipes her neck, and sees all the goop and sprays it on the ground and goes, ugh, ugh, yeah. Then she grabs the Bison and says, come on, we're leaving. I really, really need a shower now, and you can study human biology up close, especially with that reptilian tongue of yours. The human ship left the next day. As it did, a single Bison was brought into the infirmary in a complete coma. The medics were looking him over, and he was out cold, totally drained of any and all nutrients. They put several drips in his body, and they realized that there's multiple bruising, contusions, bones that are cracked, and a few of them, including the pelvis, looks like it's been almost crushed into gravel. Without skipping a beat, one of the medical staff looked at him, tired from having to reassemble a bar full of drunken hornballs, and said, okay, I think I know what happened. It was a human again, wasn't it? Hello, everybody. This is Syntax. Thank you for joining me today on this short and hopefully funny story for you. And before I go, I need to say that today's winner is Chris Dixon. And I also need to send out some humongous thank yous to the supporters of this channel. And they are Prozac and Pancakes, Steve Ewing, The Lockeen, MTF Guard, Brian Kemp, Guardian Sage, SS Demon, and Erica Gem. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. Everybody else, I'll see you on the next one. This is Syntext, punching out.